We're about to dive into a philosophy that is, well, it's not for the faint of heart. It doesn't just ask you to think differently, it demands you exist differently. It draws this really stark line in the sand between a passive life, one that's just a product of its environment, and an active life, one that actually becomes the architect of its own reality. This is the path of what the source calls the modern Samson.
So let's start with a punch, right from the source material itself. You are a storm without a center. I mean, just let that sink in. It's a statement that's meant to challenge you, to make you ask, is my will actually my own? Or am I just this reactive force bumping into the world, driven by things I don't even understand? So, here's our roadmap. First, we're going to diagnose the problem, this idea of an imprisoned contingent will. Then, we'll look at the weapons you can use for self-mastery. After that, we'll talk about forging a new autonomous self. And finally, we'll get to the big one, what it actually means to become the meaning of Earth. Okay, let's start with that diagnosis. The argument here is that most of us exist as a child of the desert. And what that means is you're a creature defined not by your own inner strength, but by the crushing weight of a world and a set of values that you had absolutely no hand in creating. And this slide really lays out the two paths, right? On the left, you've got the child of the desert. This is the reactive mode. You're just carrying the rules of others, the thou shalts of history. But on the right, that's the ideal, the architect. This person isn't defined by the world, they define their world. They are creative, they become their own law. So here's the core problem, and it's a tough one to hear. The source claims that for most people, their strength is basically an illusion. And why? Because it's contingent. It depends on something outside of you. Your job title, your social status, how many likes you get. It's not really yours. It's just on loan. And this is where the Samson metaphor really clicks into place. In this state, your power is just a gift from someone else. It lives in these external symbols. Just like the biblical Samson's strength was all in his hair. And what happens? Well, it means it can be taken away. It can be shorn by the hands of the weak. You end up as this tool, an instrument, instead of the one actually using it. But the modern Samson, that's a whole different ballgame. He has what the text calls autonomous power. This is power that can't be taken away because it's been completely internalized. He has, and I love this phrase, swallowed the lightning. He's taken the chaos, the storm of the world, and made it a part of himself. It's not outside anymore. It is him. So if your will is basically imprisoned, how do you break it out? Well, the idea here is you don't break the chains. You take those chains and you reforge them into weapons. So let me ask you a question. How do you feel about discipline, about vows, or any kind of self-imposed rule? Do you see it as a cage, a restriction on your freedom? Because this philosophy says that's a total misunderstanding of what it's for. Just look at the difference here. The weak view sees a vow as just a chain. You submit to it, and if you break it, you're ruined. But the Samson view, a vow is a tool. It's a shranke. It's like a prism that takes all this scattered, chaotic energy of your spirit and focuses it into a single, powerful laser beam of will that can actually change the world. And let's be super clear on this German word, schranke. Yeah, it means a boundary or a limit. But think of it less like a prison wall and more like the banks of a river. It's a structure you build yourself on purpose to give your power direction and focus so it doesn't just dissipate into nothing. Here's another idea that flips common wisdom on its head. We're all taught to want a smooth life, right? To pray for no obstacles. But the source says this is a huge mistake. By praying for no obstacles, you're actually praying for a life without definition, a life without any real strength. And the reason for this is a concept called Anstoß. It's another German term, and it basically means an impact or a check. Think of it like this. You can't know you're strong until you have something heavy to lift. Your I, your will, can only become aware of itself and its own freedom when it has something to push against, the not I, the world. Without that resistance, your will is just a formless void. All right, so we've diagnosed the problem and we've got our tools. Now comes the hard part, the forging process itself. And this is all about taking forces that seem to be complete opposites and hammering them together into something new and whole. The end goal here is something called the ultimate synthesis.
See, the argument is that most people just bounce weakly between two extremes, being a brute, all raw power with no direction, and being a pure spirit, all ideas and direction but no engine to make it happen. The key is to fuse them. And what are we fusing? It's these two halves of the whole. You've got the conqueror's pride. That's the beast inside, the raw animal drive that gives you momentum and that limitless will. And then you've got the creator's spirit. That's the soul, the part that gives all that raw power a direction, a form, a new law to follow. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? A Roman Caesar with Christ's soul. Think about that. The world-conquering ambition and force of Caesar, but guided and shaped by the internal, value-creating spirit of a Christ figure. It's the ultimate fusion of power and purpose. But you don't just get there overnight. It's an evolution. A lot of people get stuck at the first stage, the lion. The lion is great at saying no. It's a destroyer of old, tired values. But it can't build anything new. The goal is to evolve into the child, who represents the sacred yes. The child is a creator, a new beginning, a wheel that turns from its own center. And this act of creation is tied to one last German term, Tathandlung. It means deed, action. And the idea here is profound. You are not a noun. You are a verb. Your I isn't some static thing that just exists. It's something that you are constantly creating, moment to moment, through your own assertive actions in the world. You literally are what you do. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. Once you're actively creating yourself through your actions, where do you point all of this energy? The answer is a radical, unwavering commitment to this life, in this world, right here, right now. The source doesn't pull any punches on this. It says that by looking for meaning or salvation in some other world, some beyond, you've poisoned your own blood. These superterrestrial hopes weaken you. They drain your commitment to the here and now, which is the only place anything real can actually be built. So the modern Samson's allegiance is crystal clear. He is faithful to the earth. He pledges himself to the sweat and salt of his own skin, his own physical reality. He doesn't see the cultural death of God as a tragedy. He sees it as a massive opportunity, the freedom to become his own source of values. And he knows he's not the end goal. He's a bridge to whatever humanity is capable of becoming next. And this really brings us right back to where we started. All those external forces, the chaos, the challenges that you're afraid of, that is the very power you need to internalize. The path of the modern Samson isn't about running from the storm. It's about swallowing it whole and becoming it. So the final takeaway here isn't a comforting little thought. It's a colossal task. The meaning of the earth isn't something you go out and find like a lost set of keys. It's a block of uncarved stone. It's a quarry, and it's just sitting there, waiting for your hammer. It's waiting for you to give it shape,